Alright, so one of my all-time favorite things to do in Space Engineers is actually vector thrust, which is achieving thrust in all different directions with minimal thrusters. Potentially up to 2 thrusters or maybe even 3. But can we achieve this without scripts or mods now? So let's take a look. Of course, in previous times, the only way to do vector thrusting is through a script. And that script used to be vector thrust 2, but as you see here, it's now the old version. So now we have vector thrust OS. So once you plop that into your programming block, you have a basic ship with 2 to 3 rotors and equivalent thrusters, such as this ship here, where you have all different directions, left, right, up, down, forward, and backwards, which is WASD, C, and space on the keyboard. There are other key features such as putting in a argument or running your programming block into action bar, dragging it down as this, hit run, and then type in the special command. So we have 2 different commands here. We have dampen and gear. There's others, but more or less, this is the more important ones that I needed to use. So dampening will be basically pressing Z to turn on and off your dampeners. Pressing Z does squat in this case. So that's why we want to put in action bar 1 or 9, wherever the case is, where you can press the button and your dampeners off. And of course, there's actually 3 different gears here. The different percentage of thrust. So we start with first gear, which is minimal thrust right here. Second gear, where you see the difference in the thrust. And then third gear, full blast. There's different percentages based on the thrusting of the thrusters. So how can we do this without the script? So what if we did this? Using wheels and sensors to achieve WSAD vector thrusting in vanilla, no scripts, no mods. So how does this work? So to achieve left and right vector thrusting, we use the wheels to get detected by the sensor. So that's left. And that is right. So A and D key for the keyboard. And surprisingly, it stops. I have no other thrusters going left or right except for this top one right there. And for some reason, it does make it stop. So that takes care of A and D, but what about W and S, forward and backwards? Well, I put in this weird little, I guess, rotor-like thing, the hinge, but more or less like a boat, a rudder, I should say, not a rotor, where it's a kind of light armor block right there on the wheels on a high offset directly on it. All right, so doing W or going forward, we push the wheel drive forward and it throws the rudder backward. And that way we go forward with the thruster on top. And of course, when we go backwards, we drive reverse, hitting S. It brings the rudder towards the front. And then you'll see our thruster is forward that way. But it's a little bit off where the rudder thing doesn't really want to cooperate all the time. It works okay sometimes, and then sometimes it doesn't. I don't know why exactly. It's more or less the height offset that does it. So you don't want the height offset to be too high, too low. But as you see here, now I can freely move the rudder pretty decently. So full power forward, full power backwards. We achieve WASD vector thrusting in vanilla. No scripts, no mods, just your basic sensors, wheel, timing blocks, and special commands with the rotor and thrusters. So the rotors, as you see here, is set on this new thing called rotor rotate to angle. So you can put it on whatever angle you need it to vector thrust, and then you set your override percentage to either 100% or lower or whatever the case may be. So that is kind of one way to set that up for vector thrusting. And again, it works out decently, not the best. All right, so how's this all set up? Let me show you by going with the sensor field range. So here's the sensor field range, right? So this one here is detecting it when it goes left. So when the wheel turns towards the left-hand side, going left, like so, it turns green and activates that thruster or that sensor. And of course, when we go right, this sensor goes off. So the thruster will be set on that specific angle and thruster will ride at 100%. And then for forward and backwards, we have the sensors on the middle platform right there with the rudder. So going forward is this back sensor right over here. And then going backwards is that sensor right over there that's turning green. So once again, not necessarily 100% in terms of vector thrusting, But we got close because we were able to drive this thing WASD, but not C in space. Alright, so the next iteration of the vector thrusting in vanilla no scripts was actually to build out the 6 directions a ship needs for thrust. So you have your forward, backwards, left, right, up, and down on the tail end here. And that is going to dictate where this thruster goes, whether it's forward, backwards, left, and right, your WSAD, and your up and down on this one here. It's a simple enough setup where if we're going forward, this thruster activates at 100% thrust, then it's going to tell this to go forward or an angle, specific angle on the rotor and go 100% thrust forward, and then vice versa backwards. But the tricky thing is once you set up more than the forward and backwards and start doing left and right, for some odd reason, it gets a little bit confused. So an example, if I turn off left and right thrusters for now, going forward, it's forward, and you'll see the big thruster on top is vector thrusting forward. And then even slowing down for us, going backwards. And if we want to go backwards, we go backwards with S. And if you let go, it'll slow down going forward, which is perfect, exactly what we needed. But the moment we turn these two back on, left and right, it gets super confused. So basically, we go forward, it still kind of works. And then we go backwards, and that's working out pretty fine too. But now when we go left and right though, that's when it stops to work, and it already stopped working, as you see here. We're trying to go forward or stop the momentum going backwards, but the top thrust is not doing anything anymore. If I do left thrusting, that works fine. Once I do left and right thrusting, I can no longer do forward and backwards. I'm pressing S, I'm pressing W, and I'm not getting what I need from it. And what I found to be the reason why it's getting stuck is because for some reason it's setting up a lower limit at 90 degrees and when it should be unlimited. But when I hit unlimited, that's what happens. But I did find it to work pretty decently when you have dampeners off. You go forward, backwards, left, and right. No issues whatsoever. And it actually slows down, as you see in the meters per second down on the left. But it might not slow down entirely, as you see it's not going to 0 just yet. But turn on dampeners and you'll be on 0. Don't know why that works, but it does. So vector thrusting like this could potentially work. And it's using minimal thrusters. Yes, you have all 6 sides or directions, but you have your big ones to really navigate you more than anything else. And of course, your up and down C in space works perfectly fine because it's just the 2. So you don't have to worry too much about that. But then, of course, why not add a third thruster in this case? Just like our normal vector thrust one with scripts, we got 3 thrusters, but they all do different things this time around. So basically, the top one is your left and right. As you see here, here's right, here's left. And it just stops and slows down. Go forward is the one on the left-hand side. Go backwards, right there, same thing. And then lastly, your C downwards and space upwards. So to achieve vector thrust like this could kind of work, although you have 3 different rotors, 3 different thrusters doing 2 different directions, which still works out pretty well when it comes to it. So instead of slapping on a bunch of small little thrusters, a whole bunch of large thrusters all over your ship, you just need 6 in all directions, and at most 3 large ones to get your picking up speed. So here, as you see there, we can go pretty fast going forward, stop, maneuver left and right, up and down with no issues whatsoever. Obviously, a script makes it a lot faster, a lot easier, but this was as close as I can get with no script, no mods, strictly vanilla. Doing this is all based on event controllers. I do have it on the timer, but you can do this on the event controller. Basically, your thrust percentage based on which thruster. So example here, event controller B is your backwards thruster. So basically, you're going to take your ion thruster B or ion thruster backwards, wherever that exists, which we already have here. So once you hit the greater than or equal than threshold percentage, I set at 100, we have to set up action to run timer block backwards. Or set it up directly here, where if the conditions met, you can do toolbar 1, toolbar 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, all the way to 0, if you want to do it that way. I just did it on the timer block. It makes it a little bit easier to organize it. And then when it's not detected, turn off override for that thruster specifically. So the timer itself would be a trigger now situation. where you have the rotate to angle on the rotor and then 100% override, basically. And again, you can easily just do that on the event controller itself. And there's setup actions. So you do rotate angle here on number 1. Number 2, you do set override percentage at 100%. So that's how you can achieve somewhat of a vector thrust WSADC in space with event controllers. Would I prefer to do this with the script? Yes, if you like working with scripts, it does make a nice little LCD screen here too to kind of show you which gear you're in, if you're parking, you're cruising, or dampen is on and off, which is the other arguments that are part of the program blocks run. The script makes it pretty seamless. But of course, if you can't run scripts, I would probably use the last option, and that is doing it with the event controllers. But of course, you won't achieve as quickly as the scripts will provide. As you see here, all thrusters going forward, all thrusters going backwards. The only thing about left and right will stay the same, where it's just one thruster and then your up and down uses the 2 thrusters. Does it help immensely? Yes, in some ways, but you can definitely get away with the event controller thrust percentage way much better. The wheel one, not too reliable, and plus it doesn't have your up and down, but it was worth a shot. So let me know in the comments down below if you like option 1, which is the wheels way, or option number 2, which is the event controller setup. But of course, I hope you enjoyed this one. Please like and subscribe. Don't forget to comment down below, even just say hi. And of course, I'll see you guys next time. Bye.